Coming to you from a studio somewhere out there. It's Enough Already Radio with Fingers Malloy and Tracy L. Connors.
And here we are again. My name is Fingers Malloy. She is Tracy L. Connors, and we are back with more Enough Already Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have a lot to talk about. Hey, at the bottom of the hour, our very good friend Carol Roth will be here. Tracy.
Exciting.
She was a judge on America's Greatest Makers over at TBS.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out what's going on, if we're going to see a second season of that, and we'll talk about maybe Wall Street stuff. You know, she's a big Wall Street person. Buy, sell, buy stocks.
Well, she's also very good at telling you how to run your own business.
That's true. So that'll happen at the bottom of the hour. Tracy, I got to tell you, you know how I'm a big fatty.
Okay.
And I
think we've established this. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm doing what I can to try to change that in small ways, but I stumble from time to time by eating gas station frozen burritos, that kind of thing. So
Nice.
Yesterday I decided, okay, this is the day I'm going to turn over a new leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So instead of going through a drive-through, I go to a national chain sandwich shop. I won't mention their name.
Okay.
Because I don't know if they are a sponsor on Wham 1600 AM in Ann Arbor, and I don't want to give away free advertising, because I know as soon as people hear that I'm going to the sub shop, it could be their new Jared, minus the whole child pornography thing. So anyway, I go to the sub shop, and I say, okay, I'm going to be good. I'm going to get a 6-inch sub.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it a combo, because you can get a combo there. And I'm taking, I'm going to be gone for a while, so I have a little lunch pail with 2 lean cuisine meals in it. So I'm like, okay, I'm really trying to be good here.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the combo, and I think to myself, I'm going to treat myself. Instead of getting the chips, I'll get cookies. So I get the 2 cookies that come with the combo meal, and the nice young lady who's ringing me up grabs the cookies, and I look as she's grabbing them, and it has the calorie content for each cookie right next to it.
Like, can I guess?
Sure.
How big are these cookies?
I'd say they're about 4 inches, and they're really thin. They're only about maybe a half-inch thick.
A half-inch thick cookie? That's not particularly thin.
Well, maybe a little less than half of an inch. One cookie was white.
Okay. You're telling me what's in them.
Yeah, I was going to, they weren't just plain sugar cookies or anything. One was white chocolate chip with macadamia nut.
Uh-huh.
And the other one was raspberry cheesecake.
Ooh. Okay. Were the calorie counts the same?
Yes.
Interesting.
Which is
all right,
odd.
I'm going to... Right. 520 calories apiece.
Oh, no, you really overshot that.
Oh, sorry.
But still, I was shot. 200 calories per cookie.
That's not too bad, actually, for a cookie.
The sandwich only had 200 calories.
Oh. Okay.
It was a turkey breast on wheat with veggies and Swiss cheese. And
right, and
mayo.
they weighed out every ingredient for you?
Of course. That's what they do.
Sure they did. So did you still get the 2 cookies?
Of course. I scarfed them down in like 30 seconds.
This new leaf.
But I hated myself. The rest of the day. Then I went and I ate those lean cuisine meals, and I'm looking at one, and it was a mashed potato and meatloaf lean cuisine meal. It was 9.5 ounces, had 230 calories.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, my God. I had a cookie that one cookie almost had the same calorie count as this whole meal.
Yep.
This is why
the struggle continues.
Yeah, This is why I'm fat. So.
Yeah, it's no secret.
It's not easy. How do you stay so thin? You eat like eggplant every day.
No. I'm off the eggplant.
Oh.
No, it's just a matter of calorie control and some exercise.
Well, I walk like 3 miles a day.
Yes, I understand that, but you just described eating 2 cookies and a sub and then 2 lean cuisines.
Well, that's
just because
good.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Lean cuisine meals aren't good? I don't think they have any preservatives or anything.
Oh, sure they do.
They do?
Of course, it's all chemicals.
Oh, you read the labels.
Yeah. Right, but the point is like you feel good about yourself for eating the lean cuisines, but you can't start out with the sub and the cookies. And I'm sure that there was some soda in there somewhere.
I had a Minute Maid light lemonade.
Oh. Yeah, you shouldn't waste calories on drinks.
Well, I threw out there the other day that I had a Diet Pepsi, and everybody freaked out. I mean, apparently I'm not supposed to drink Pepsi anymore, Tracy.
Well, why would you drink Pepsi in the first place? It's vile.
Well, Diet Pepsi is better than Diet Coke.
False.
So, because it tastes sweeter. Whatever death chemical they use to sweeten Diet Pepsi, to me, makes the diet soda taste better than a Diet Coke. But I guess some weird social justice Pepsi ad came out.
Yes, you haven't watched it yet.
No, what? Do you know anything about this? Because whenever I see some sort of mass freak out on the right over a commercial or a skit on Saturday Night Live, I do my best to not watch it and join the outrage. So, did you
well, this
see
freak out wasn't just on the right. Yes, I saw it.
Oh, it was on the left too?
The left is very upset.
Over a Pepsi ad.
Yes. I'm trying to find the headlines from yesterday on the Huffington Post. They were horrified by this ad. So it's Kendall Jenner, I guess. I think that's the one.
What's a Kendall Jenner?
She is a Kardashian Jenner mix.
Okay.
Bred in Southern California.
Make it sound like
Yeah, no, some pedigree
German
puppy.
Shepherd.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, this is one of the children that Bruce Jenner and Kris Kardashian had together.
They had kids?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. The 2 younger girls are his or hers. I don't know what to call him anymore, so let's just move along.
What's his name? What's her name now? What I forgot.
Caitlyn.
So Caitlyn Kardashian had a kid.
Yes. Caitlyn Kardashian Jenner or Jenner Kardashian. Yes.
Yeah.
Had 2 children with Kris Kardashian.
Wow.
At least. I think it's just the 2, though, the younger ones.
You'd have to get pretty boozed up to do that, wouldn't you?
I guess.
She's a horrible woman. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Well, anyway, so one of those 2, I think it's Kendall Jenner.
Is
Kendall
that a
and
boy?
Kylie. No.
Kendall's
we
a
don't.
girl.
We can't assume these things.
That's true.
So this commercial it's her. She's a model now.
Oh.
And so there's some street marching going on. And we don't really understand why. Everybody seems really happy. You know, it's not masked Antifa people.
Oh, so nobody's getting sprayed with bear mace or a chair isn't
Right.
flying into a Starbucks window in this?
No, there's no fires going on. CVS hasn't acted a fool and deservedly being robbed for doing so. No, none of that's happening.
Okay.
She's in the middle of a photo shoot while this is going on. She's in a doorway having her picture taken, and people are filing by, and she's wearing a blonde wig. So I don't know if that's supposed to be some commentary on, European beauty standards, that she has to cover up her dark hair. And
Because you never see any brunettes that are models, Tracy.
never. Well, no, this whole thing was supposed to be some giant social, commentary. So she joins. Yeah. Oh, it's Kendall Jenner. Excuse me. Not
Isn't that
Kylie.
what you said?
I couldn't remember. I think I've mixed them up like
Doesn't
4 or
matter.
5 times now.
It's all
Yeah.
interchangeable at this point.
Correct. So she's getting her picture taken. This happy protest mob is going by. They cut to other people of all different ethnicities doing things that then are hearing this parade and want to join. So it's multicultural.
Of course.
Then finally Kendall just can't take it anymore, and she rips off her blonde wig and grabs a Pepsi at some point and heads to the front of the protest line. And then the protesters come up against cops. And there's, I don't know, 15, 20 feet separating them from the cops. And these cops aren't wearing the riot gear that we see normally, you know, where they have the full-on shield and the face mask and all that stuff. With
Is
the
they
billy
wearing like the
gloves out.
YMCA cop uniform?
Yeah, pretty much the stripper cop outfit. Yeah.
Like Chips showed up?
Yeah, the dress blues.
Oh, okay.
And Kendall just makes her way over to the cop and gives him a Pepsi. It's like, remember when they used to put the flowers in the rifles?
Yes. Now we're using Pepsi.
Yes. So Pepsi solved the problems, even though the police didn't look like they were moving in on them. And everything seemed pretty sedate. Like I said, there was lots of smiling going on to this protest.
Oh.
There were no pink hats in evidence.
Did this look like it was, instead of a protest, it was the beginning of a musical?
Yes.
Were
Absolutely.
the protesters snapping their fingers like this?
It was very reminiscent of the opening of Bye Bye Birdie, which I'm sure means absolutely nothing
I have
to
no
you.
idea what that means.
But it starts with like Anne Margaret singing this song, and then there's a whole bunch of people dancing behind her. Yeah, it's kind of like what it was.
And so this ticked off a lot of people, apparently, huh?
Yes, everybody was ticked off. So they've pulled it. And here's a headline from Huffington Post. Pepsi pulls Kendall Jenner ad following intense backlash. Quote, "We are removing the content and halting any further rollout," the company said. They must have dropped a couple million on this thing.
Wow.
It was over 2 minutes long. And I'm going to guess there was over 1,000 extras in this.
Oh, my gosh.
And they had to have shut down a couple city blocks to do it.
I know our younger listeners will probably have to Google this, but was this supposed to be their version of the Coca-Cola's "I want to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony" kind of
Yeah, but that
commercial?
was at least smart. You know, they weren't trying to capitalize on the zeitgeisty stuff and end up making everybody angry. So the protesters are like, oh, this is, demeaning our protest. You're undermining us. And then the right's like, oh my God, the cops, and look at we can just keep the cops from beating us by giving them Pepsis, and everybody's losing their minds. And me, I'm just like, I would go out and just buy a bunch of Pepsi because it made everybody angry, but Pepsi's just so vile that I can't do it. Yeah. So people are just furious. This is appropriating the protest culture.
Okay, so obviously the next whatever protest that comes up, we have to show up and hand out Pepsi.
Yeah. I think we should just fill water super soakers with it. That's a way to spread it faster.
Just don't aim for the face. That's as bad as bear mace.
Yeah.
Well, they're bringing back Crystal Pepsi. You remember Crystal Pepsi?
Oh, doesn't that go down in history as one of the biggest mistakes of all time?
Yeah, it was like the Zima of soda. It was popular for about 3 seconds, and then everybody was like, "You don't drink Crystal Pepsi, do you?" Well, no, I don't. Do you? No, of course not. It was clear, and it tastes like medicine.
Yeah. Well, as opposed to Pepsi's normal taste, which is just like melted
Diet Pepsi's good.
metal. No, it's not.
You
at the restaurant when they ask you, when you say, "Can I have a Diet Coke?" and they say, "Is Pepsi okay?" I say no.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like that.
No, not a fan.
What?
No,
So you don't drink soda at all?
no, I do.
But you drink Diet Coke.
Yeah, I've tried to cut down significantly on it. But if I do, I drink Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, Diet Dr. Pepper's pretty good.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Of the diet sodas, I mean, the worst diet soda of all, if you're a Mountain Dew drinker and you pick up a Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, that's offensive. There's nothing related to the taste of Mountain Dew in the diet one.
It tastes like wood pulp.
No,
It's awful.
pretty much.
So, there's
Well,
that.
Pepsi's already pulled the ad, so I'm sure other people have ripped it and put it up places. If you're desperate to see this ridiculousness.
Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, mission accomplished for Pepsi. Mm-hmm. I mean, because the only people that are really going to be ticked off about this are the loons, right? I mean, most people would kind of look at it and go, whatever.
I don't know.
You think that really ticked off a lot of people?
It's being talked about all over the place, and I mean, my eyes roll, and I know yours do too. But yeah.
I know, but we look at this kind of stuff in everything. You think most people do?
I understand that. No, but I think that you're going to have a sizable percentage of the population that's angry now, and they'll boycott them. The left is all up on the boycotts now. The right has been doing it for a long time. Remember, they have that list the Women's March put together of people to avoid, so I'm sure they're highly offended.
Pepsi's now on the list.
That they weren't asked to be in the commercial.
Were there any pink hats?
No pink hats. Everything was very blue.
Ooh, oh.
Yeah, Kendall Jenner was in denim from head to toe.
Are we allowed to like denim?
Yeah, I believe so.
Denim's okay.
Yes, I think.
There was no fur, obviously.
No.
Was the wig made of human hair?
I believe so.
Okay, that's good. I think. Is that good? Can we be for wigs made of human hair?
Yeah, I think. I mean, they look better.
Yeah, they look better, but I just don't know.
I don't know. Take it up with Beyonce.
Oh, that's her real hair.
Oh, please.
Don't be so mean.
Yeah, she's got that magical hair that can grow 10 inches overnight.
Who's she married to? Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, yes. The one that looks like a bat.
What, and they were getting a divorce at one time, weren't they?
I think that's just tabloid rumors.
Oh. I
They got
can't
to
keep track.
stay in the
stuff.
headlines,
I
Fingers.
guess so. I got to go to TMZ and get my daily briefing. I can't figure it out. 'Cause,
No.
I still think that I still thought until last week that Mariah Carey was married to Nick Cannon.
No. They've been divorced, and she was engaged to some Australian billionaire, I want to say, and I think that fell apart.
Oh, she
Much
was
like her New Year's performance.
She was looking for her Celine Dion. I'm gonna marry a rich foreigner.
Yes.
What was his
Celine
name?
Dion is a foreigner. Renee.
That's right. She's Canadian. Was he Canadian?
I think so.
Oh,
He was French. French Canadian, maybe.
Two-time loser.
Yes.
Well, we only have a few minutes left in this segment. Did you want to talk about Susan Rice?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where to begin with this. We could talk about her interview with Andrea Mitchell Clinton, if you want to.
No, that's Andrea Mitchell. Greenspan.
Oh, Greenspan. I thought it was Clinton because she's in the tank.
No.
But so the story breaks that she was basically using NSA information for political purposes on last Sunday?
Well, it's not necessarily NSA. I guess it's NSA information. Yeah. So Sunday night, Mike Cernovich breaks the story. He's got intel people giving him this information that Susan Rice who was the UN ambassador and then was on the Security Council as an advisor to President Obama. And let's remember, she was also a Clintonista in the 90s. So it's interesting that she ends up on Obama's team, which she apparently chose sides in 2007.
Well, you're supposed to choose sides back then.
Right. But remember, the Clintons keep that list of people that are loyal to them and not. So Cernovich's story is that she was one of the people that was unmasking the names of Trump associates that were caught up in these taps, if we're allowed to say that word, that were incidentally collected when they were spying on foreigners. And that she was then putting these names, I guess the supposition is that these names made their way into the presidential daily briefings just based on what she said. with Andrea Mitchell. So Cernovich reports this Sunday night, then Eli Lake follows up Monday morning in Bloomberg, and that's when the story really kind of blows up. So she goes on Andrea Mitchell on Tuesday to do some damage control, and the interview is just insanely stunning to watch because Andrea does everything within her power to keep Susan Rice from answering the question that everybody wants to know, which is, did you actually do this?
Right.
So, I mean, she's cutting her off in mid-sentence. And yeah, so at one point she says, within the context of the Trump campaign, the Trump transition, this is Mitchell asking Rice, did you seek the names of people involved to unmask the names of people involved in the Trump transition, the Trump campaign, people surrounding the president? Rice says, let me begin. And then Mitchell jumps in again in order to spy on them, in order to expose them. And Rice says, absolutely not for any political purposes to spy, expose anything. But let me, Andrea jumps in again. Did you leak the name of Mr. Flynn? Rice, I leaked nothing to nobody and never have and never would. So she didn't do nothing, is what she's saying. But
nobody.
Right. And I think she went to Harvard. So I'm sure that that's how everybody at Harvard speaks. I didn't do nothing to nobody. Never would. It's unreal. But so you can see that Andrea clearly cuts her off before she can answer whether or not she did it. And then slides in that, like, for political purposes, as if that excuses the action. Or takes out some of the evilness of the whole thing. Oh, okay, did you do such and such? Well, but was it for political? We still don't have a straight answer on this. Whether or not she did it, we're just going off these reports that, yes, she was one of the ones that did it. So, if she was doing this, which she, according to what Comey said in front of the House Intelligence Committee, she did have the authority to do this, to unmask the names in these conversations and then spread them around. And that could have made its way into the presidential daily briefing. And it kind of sounds like that's what she's alluding to in an earlier part of that interview, where she says, let me explain how this works. I was the national security advisor. My job is to protect the American people and the security of our country, which, of course, this is me parenthetically, involves spying on Trump's people. That's the same as the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director. And every morning, to enable us to do that, we receive from the intelligence community a compilation of intelligence reports that the IC, the intelligence community, has selected for us on a daily basis to give us the best information as to what's going on around the world. So that sounds to me like the presidential daily briefing. Does it not to you?
Yes, and I get a kick out of her explanation. As, you know, in my role, trying to keep the American people safe.
Of course, that's what this is all about. So, let's think about this.
Save one child's life by spying on the Trump team, Tracy. Isn't it all worth it?
Oh, it's all worth it. Totally worth it. But keep in mind, they're saying that this was going on in December and January during the transition period. Mm-hmm. Trump was also receiving presidential daily briefings during that period. And if you'll remember, there was quite the stir in the media that he didn't want to take them, that he was suspicious of the information that was being shown to him by the CIA and all of this stuff. So I have to imagine that they were actually creating two different presidential daily briefings, that they weren't showing him what they were showing Obama.
Right.
Which is interesting. But they also keep all the copies of the presidential daily briefings. So these should be accessible. And people are speculating that's why Nunez had to go to the White House to look at this stuff, because it's not supposed to leave the White House grounds, at least the ones that Obama was getting, because Trump wasn't there. But maybe those are kept there, too. And I would love to do a side-by-side and see what the differences are between the two sets of presidential daily briefings.
Well, we're going to have to do that another time because we're out of time for the segment.
All right.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, our pal, Carol Roth, will join us. Stay tuned for more Enough Already Radio right after this.
Enough Already Radio is on Facebook. Check out the fan page, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast. Hey, you're on Twitter. I saw that tweet, man. So is Fingers and Tracy, too. Follow us. Follow Fingers at Fingers Malloy. Follow Tracy at Tracy L. Connors. And me, I don't have a handle on Twitter. Oh, all right. Well, follow those guys. When do I get I'm just the announcer guy. Yeah. It's Enough Already Radio with Fingers Malloy and Tracy L. Connors.
Welcome back. Remember, you can always find things about Enough Already Radio on our site, Tracy Connors.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
It's enoughAlreadyPodcast.com. We'll have links to the podcast. Tracy and I write from time to time. It's good stuff, so go check that out. But joining us right now on the Enough Already Radio hotline is our good friend Carol Roth. Carol, how are you?
I am amazing. How are you guys?
Could not be better. Thanks for joining us. The last few months here, at the beginning of the Trump campaign, the Trump presidency, we've had some good jobs reports come out. What do you think the state of the economy is at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that from an economic standpoint, things, at least for the time being, seem to be moving in the right direction. I'm not certain that we're going to get the fully accelerated growth that we would all like to see, but at least we're starting to see more optimism from small businesses. We're seeing big businesses investing and making those capital investments that do things like create jobs and, of course, boost earnings and create some growth. So I definitely think we're moving in the right direction. I think one of the challenges that we faced, and this happens in the stock market, but I think also on Main Street as well, is that people value expectations a bit more than realities. And so now we've had somewhat of a cluster, which is, I think, the technical term for it, with the Health Care Act. We have tax reform that people, particularly in the business world, are hotly anticipating. And as these things either don't materialize or at least don't materialize in the fashion that meets those expectations, I think you could end up seeing some backlash in the form of issues with the stock market, maybe some decreased optimism, because a lot of that optimism is set up on expectations that aren't likely to be fulfilled at the level that they were promised. So I think for the time being, we're in the right spot, and encourage all of the entrepreneurs and businesses out there to keep their head down and sort of ignore everything that's going on in Washington and keep growing the economy, because at the end of the day, it's the people who make America great.
Now, how has the Trump administration's moves to scale back some of the moves that Obama made regarding regulations, how has that affected small business at this point, or has it?
I don't think it has. I mean, I don't think that there's anything that has been concrete that has any impact on small business. And my biggest concern, as is always my biggest concern, is that there's always a lot of lip service paid to small business and not any true action that affects them. And just to take a step back, if you remember, the scope of small business in the United States is staggering. We have 28 million small businesses, 6 million of those that actually have employees. I contrast that to under 15,000 large businesses. So they're not well organized or, in terms of lobbying or, big groups, because they are in so many different industries and sizes and fragmented, but they are the engine of the economy. They employ the majority of the people in this country. They create the majority of sales. And unfortunately, because they don't have these lobbying efforts, a lot of the promises end up going unfulfilled. So there needs to be massive overhaul. Part of that should relate to changing the tax code. Part of that should be just changing a whole slew of regulations that make it very, very difficult for small businesses to be in business. I can tell you, as somebody who works with small businesses and is a small business owner, if you're a service provider, and let's say you have one employee who works from home during customer service behind a computer, you have to buy workers' compensation insurance for that particular employee for thousands of dollars, which is completely, totally insane. But that ends up being a law. Now, it's a state law, but theoretically, the federal government could make it easier by creating some sort of exemptions that states have to follow, and just generally sort of leading that pathway to making it easier and making people understand the kinds of burdens that are on small business, because it costs them time, it costs them a bunch of money, and if we have these 28 million companies out there, we want them to be focused on running their businesses and growing their businesses, not wasting their time in doing paperwork and wasting money on things that aren't helpful to their business.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught this or not, Carol. I saw an article a couple days ago over at Reason about the acting FTC commissioner, Maureen Olhausen.
I did not catch that article yet.
Okay. She's on she's trying to get some licensing regulations revoked, taken off the books. I mean, it's difficult at the federal level, but she's out making the case that these things are a barrier to entry into the market. And this is stuff we hear about from time to time, like the ridiculousness.
All of the licensing, the fact that they are now categorizing people who truly are freelancers in many cases as employees, and then subjecting the owner of the business to all kinds of crazy regulations, from having to buy worker compensation insurance to affecting their ability to put money away for retirement. All of these things affect small businesses. But again, I don't think that there's a really good grasp and understanding at the government level of these types of issues. And again, they don't have the sort of coordinated marketing efforts and lobbying efforts to be able to affect that change. But again, you want people who are small business owners to be spending most of their time growing their business and hiring more people. I mean, for the 6 million small businesses that have an employee, if half of them had one more hire, that would be 3 million people. For the 22 million that don't have employees, if you could get even 10% of those to their first employees, that's another 2.2 million jobs. I mean, the impact is tremendous, and we have that sort of initial infrastructure set up. It's not like people have to go out and create these businesses. They exist. We just have to give them a helping hand. And again, everybody's so caught up in the political theater that these things never seem to happen.
But do a lot of these changes have to happen on the state level, correct, as opposed to the federal?
Theoretically, some of them do, although from a theoretical standpoint, you could change some things on the federal level that made the states have to follow suit with that. But you could also change some things on the federal level to provide the leadership to say to the states, this is kind of what the expectation is. And on the national level, we're changing the IRS definition of what a 1099 employee is to allow for the freelancer and the business to come to their own contract. And if it works great for both of them, we shouldn't get in the middle of that. And with that, I think a lot of states would follow suit. Now, certainly California won't, but other than that, I think a lot of states will take that leadership, because at the end of the day, I don't even think they understand some of these issues, or at least don't want to be the ones to be the first people to take the unpopular plunge. So I do think that even though some of these things end up at a state level, that the federal government can either set that path directly or indirectly.
And you said there's absolutely no lobbying group that works on behalf of small businesses?
I mean, there are, but, again, the strength of it's a little bit challenging because, as I said, you've got 28 million, and, no group has any meaningful number of those. I mean, you've got great groups. The U.S. Chamber is a great group. You've got the NFIB, who's a great group. But, again, they're kind of touching a very small amount, and, so you're not getting the power of, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars from really big, tight, corporate types of entities where the companies in there are, robust. So it's a little bit of a different structure, and therefore it just becomes a challenge.
Carol briefly touched on Obamacare at the beginning of the conversation here. As far as the debate goes when it comes to Obamacare, we talk about people who have been able to get coverage from Obamacare. We've also obviously talked about how Obamacare has affected premiums and the cost of care. How has Obamacare affected small business?
Oh, it's horrendous. I talk to people every day who are spending an insane amount of money. I talked to somebody the other day who is spending, I think it's now something on the order of like an incremental, not just, this isn't the number, it's an incremental $500 a month over what they had before, and they're getting worse care, and that becomes the issue, is that coverage doesn't equal care. They did exempt small businesses of a certain size from having to cover their employees. However, they did some weird things, like considering the guy who owns a McDonald's franchise, for example, to not be a small business because somehow they are, working with McDonald's. That makes them a big business, which is insane, because they're the ones risking their own capital and they're the ones running the business. And yes, McDonald's is providing a logo and sort of a game plan, but it doesn't make them a big business. They don't have McDonald's resources to be able to, provide that to their employees. So, it's a tremendous issue. It's, again, something that the small business owner shouldn't have to be thinking about. They should be thinking about growing their business. And I'm one of those who firmly believes that if you enter into a contract with somebody, if you're an employee and it works for you and it works for the business owner, and you two agree to something, the fact that some third party, aka the government, should come in and say, no, I'm sorry, even though you guys agree you can't do that, is just fundamental insanity. And so, there are a handful of people who have made out better, and those people obviously think that Obamacare is great, but the greater majority have seen a decline, either because it's more expensive, it's more headaches, they have worse coverage, they lost their doctor, and the greater majority of small business owners and the people who work for them think that this is a giant mess. I'm frankly quite annoyed with the Republicans, the fact that they've had all of this time to think through a solution, and they get their opportunity to step up to the plate, and they just absolutely whiff with all the time they've been lamenting how bad it is, and how there's so much of a better option out there. It's just not that complicated. All you need to do is go to a free market system where there's competition and have a mandate in there that everybody in some way, shape, or form gets required. That's all the people want. If you have free markets involved, if there's price competition, that benefits the consumer in terms of having different choices, regardless of what state you're from or whatnot. The big concern, the one thing that people really thought was great about Obamacare was that everybody got covered. And so if that is the objective, that's one line. It's just not that fundamentally complicated. And the fact that, the political elite here seem to be more worried about what people think of them or they like them and just won't go full out and do what's right, is just, again, utterly frustrating.
But predictable.
Entirely predictable. I have a godson who is 14 years old, and he asked me to explain the difference between Democrats and Republicans. And I told him that one party has not really great ideas, but is really good at executing them, and the other party has generally good ideas and is horrible at executing them. And that was my explanation of the two parties. I'll leave it to you to figure out which is which, but that's kind of my feeling on the subject.
Well, do you hold out any hope then that they'll be able to get any kind of tax reform done?
Honestly, I don't like to be the pessimist or the contrarian, but I'm sure they'll get something done, and I'm sure it will be a fraction of what it should be or could be, and that's the issue. Is they have just an incredible one-time opportunity, and there's so much riding on it. I mean, for those of us who have been advocating to have business people in charge of this country and, to run the government with more business principles, they're not doing us any favors here. And what's going to end up happening is if we aren't able to get these things done in the manner and to the degree they need to get done, not only are we going to have bad expectations from the market and bad consequences from the market and maybe from businesses not investing as much and optimism going down, but it's just going to continue to set the stage for anybody who wants to run in the future to say, well, we tried the business guy thing and it didn't work out. They weren't able to get anything done, so let's just take that off the table, which would be a really horrible outcome for everybody. So there's a tremendous amount riding on this, and the fact that the GOP can't execute its way out of a paper bag is just insanely frustrating.
They just seem much more comfortable being backseat drivers. Leadership just doesn't seem to be in their wheelhouse, Carol.
Right. That's really one of the most eloquent and well-put ways of discussing them that I've ever heard, Fingers. I mean, it's true. It's that they like to point out what's wrong and what you should have done, but when it comes to actually doing the execution and making things happen, it's like there's this complete paralysis, which is just baffling.
So what do you have coming up here in the next few weeks that our listeners should know about, Carol?
Well, one thing that they should definitely do, particularly if they're interested in entrepreneurship or they own a small business, or if they just want to hear more about that realm, is that I host a show for Microsoft called Office Small Business Academy. You can access it online at office.com/Small Business Academy. And if you go in and you register, it's completely free. You can scroll down and you can see all of our back episodes, and we should have the season finale probably coming up in a few weeks as well. But lots of incredible content there. And of course, my day-to-day content is always at Twitter at Carol J.S. Roth. And maybe next time I talk to you, maybe keeping my fingers crossed because everything takes longer in entrepreneurship than it should. But I've been working on a big release of a legacy planning product that is really important to everyone, and it comes from sort of unfortunate personal experience of losing a number of loved ones over a short period of time. So hopefully next time we chat, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that as well.
Sounds good. Carol Roth, thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, she's the best. Well, we got about 6 minutes here, Tracy. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Syrian chemical weapons.
You don't want to get anywhere near them.
No, that's my understanding.
Bad times.
It's also my understanding that we secured all their weapons years ago.
Of course we did.
After the first alleged sarin gas attack perpetrated by the Assad regime, which there's plenty of information that tells me that's probably not what happened. But this still remains to be the story that comes out of the mouths of politicians all over the place, that he had gassed his own people. And so we got Trump in there who's saying we shouldn't have gone into Syria and meddled in the first place. I know people have been circulating his tweets from that time back in 2013. It's like, don't go, don't go, don't go. We need to focus on home. And that was a big selling point for him, I think, at least, that we're not going to be meddling in this stuff. And, last week he had kind of backed off and wasn't all about regime change over there, which has been something that the United States has wanted in Syria specifically since the 1970s when Assad's daddy was in charge over there. So Assad and Trump's puppet master Putin have been doing a decent job, it seems, as of late, pushing the rebel forces, as we like to call them, instead of calling them what they are, which is ISIS and Al-Qaeda, out of major cities. I believe they got them entirely out of Raqqa at this point. So, Reed, they're winning. And now we're to believe that even though they're winning, they decided, oh, what the hell? Let's use some chemical weapons against our own people, because that won't raise the ire of the rest of the world. So this is the latest story, is that there was a bombing raid, and we have between 70 and 100 civilians that appear to be the victims of some sort of chemical attack.
Well, and once you start seeing the pictures of the children being gassed.
Yeah, cut to Nikki Haley at the UN holding up photographs, which is exactly what happened.
We demand action, Tracy.
We need to move now. Yeah, I'm reading all the condemnations that are coming out from the other countries on the UN's blog. Everybody, of course. I mean, you've got the Ethiopians, which I thought they didn't have a government, because I'm always told as a libertarian, why don't you just go live in Ethiopia because they don't have a government. But the Ethiopian representative to the UN condemned these attacks. You've got the Chinese that are very upset. The Senegalese, who knew that Senegal was there, they're not happy about this. And then the Russian UN attaché, or whatever we want to call him, is just saying like, hey, maybe we should wait until there's a further investigation of this. Because what the claims are coming out of Damascus is that, yes, they did perpetrate this bombing raid, but they were hitting a munitions stockpile, a rebel munitions stockpile, and that these chemical weapons were actually belonged to the rebels.
We don't have time for an investigation, Tracy.
No, we must go straight to war.
We want action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that hasn't ended up disastrously in the past.
Oh. That was then. This is now.
Oh, sure. We have better intelligence now.
Listen, if they can listen in on your smart TV, find out what you're doing. Clearly, we could find out who bombed these Syrian children.
Of course.
And I didn't think there were actually any people left in Syria.
No, there are, apparently.
Oh, that's news to me, because everything I've seen, Syrian refugees, the whole country has left.
Right, yeah, no. Most of them are not coming from Syria.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm told. They're all Syrian. It's amazing.
I know. There were 2 billion people that lived in Syria prior to this.
That's right.
So that's why you still have some people there. But yeah, I mean, it just from a common sense standpoint, if you're winning a war in your own country, would you turn around and use weapons that you know are going to inflame the rest of the world?
Well, now,
against a civilian population? Does that make any sense?
No, you're using common sense, Tracy.
And I know we're supposed to think of him. He's not a good dude. We get it. No one's sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, but Bashar al-Assad is a champion of human rights." No, he's a bad dude. Putin's also a bad dude. But they're not stupid. And this is just dumb. But you've got everybody out now. Oh, we got to go. We got to do something about this. If we could just save one child.
You know what we need to do? Send over a crate of Pepsi.
Oh, yeah.
Which some would call a chemical weapon, but that's neither here nor there.
That's true. It's true.
Well, we're about out of time. You believe that?
Okay. I can.
Our thanks go out to Carol Roth. Check her out on Twitter. CarolJSRoth, not .com, just at CarolJSRoth. I'm so used to saying .com.
I know.
Because we're plugging websites left and right. But I'm on Twitter at Fingers Malloy. Tracy is on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. Final thoughts, Tracy?
Oh, I'll be interested to see where this investigation goes into the gassing. My guess is that regardless of what the facts show, Assad will be blamed, just like last time around. But I hope that we can stave off full-scale war. So fingers crossed. I don't want my tax dollars paying for more bombs to be dropped.
Have a Coke and a smile. Those are my final thoughts. Okay. I'm not actually being paid by Coke to say that. And I don't drink Coke. You drink Coke.
Yeah, occasionally.
Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
Glad we got that.
We got our plugs in.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. That's another Enough Already Radio. We'll be back next week on WAAM 1600 AM in Ann Arbor. And check out the podcast at EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com with bonus content. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Well, this is part of the bonus content we promised you people because, Tracy, we listened to the folks. Bill O'Reilly calls them the folks. And they were emailing me saying, hey, we like the fact that you're on terrestrial radio now, but we really can't stand the fact that you guys don't swear anymore.
I know, it's a shame.
It is. So we have Carol. What was that?
I'm just trying to give the fans what they want, Fingers and Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, Carol, graciously
put that out there right out of the box. You know what? I've been listening too much. I love Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast. I don't know if any of you listen to that, but I listen to it religiously, and that's his affectionate name for his listeners, and that is what they call him. So he literally signs off every single podcast is like, all right, you cunts, go fuck yourselves. So they literally, that is his sign off every time, and it's amazing. I love it. So just bring in a little bit of that to enough already. Bonus coverage.
It's like his version of Carol Burnett tugging on her ear.
Exactly. It's just slightly less, how shall we say, it's not quite as covert and clandestine. It's kind of out there.
Jay Leno used to do a bit called What's My Beef way back in the day.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, so, Carol, what's been pissing you off lately? What's your beef?
Oh, man. What's my beef? Can we talk about something fun and fun? I feel like everything's my beef. I feel like I'm, perpetually in a state of, get off my lawn. Get people on Twitter, it's like, you sound bitter. It's like, I am bitter. What's my beef is Congress and all of this political theater and the fact that, that everything's become politicized. I'm technically independent, and for me to have people do things like, I'm going to block the Supreme Court nominee who's insanely qualified and totally normal because you didn't vet our guy. It's like, okay, the people who didn't vet your guy were total jerks, and now you guys are going to be total jerks. And by the way, who's representing me in all of this? Just do your job. So, that's my beef, is that people don't do their jobs, because I'm a get-her-done kind of gal, and I don't like when people don't do what they're supposed to do.
Have you been dashing off letters to your representatives to this effect?
I've just been bitching on Twitter like everybody else.
You don't include them in your tweets?
So my representatives, it's like Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, come on. It's a futile effort. I like to put my effort forth in a place where it's actually going to be appreciated. In fact, I was just having this conversation with a friend. I was in Boston speaking for Microsoft, and the night before I decided to go to a Bruins game, Original Six. So that's all good, even though they beat the Blackhawks on Sunday. But we didn't hold them against us because Blackhawks already clinched the division, and so they were kind of resting players, whatever. But at any rate, I was basically saying that at this point, I kind of feel like anyone could do just about anything to me, because I'm so busy and I just don't have the time to deal with it anymore. So I was sitting on the plane and some guy poured orange juice all over everything that I owned, my bag, my clothes, my whatever. And of course, it was super chivalrous and barely even helped me clean it up. And I call the airline and they're like, oh, you have to do all these things. And I'm like, fuck it. This is just not happening. There was a time out of principle when I would do this kind of stuff. But now I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I don't need the aggravation. Don't have the time to deal with it. So fuck it. So that's basically my attitude on just about everything lately. Hence the lack of letters to Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth.
So they didn't even give you free drinks after you got spilled on?
Dude, they didn't even care. It was basically it was like, well, it's not our fault, ma'am. It's the jerk sitting next to you. And it's like, I'm not going to start with that, writing letters to him. Sir, you spilled on me, and I'm going to need you to pay my dry cleaning bill, sir, because all it does is it just aggravates me more. So, at this point, I've just it's kind of like having an escrow account for shit. So for all the shitty people and all the people that do you wrong, you just kind of have to reserve some cash and realize that that's going to be used to take care of whatever idiocy they have done in order to save me time and grief. That's my new philosophy.
That's good. So you're just going to bank the outrage.
Totally. Going to reserve. I'm going to do a journal entry in my accounting for outrage, the outrage fund.
Well, here's a topic that's going to bore Tracy, but I have to bring it up because I know you're a huge Chicago.
That's quite the introduction.
Because I know I can hear her eyes roll when I start talking football. Doesn't it break your heart a little bit that the Oakland Raiders are going to move to Las Vegas?
Okay, so I'm a long-time Raiders fan. That the Raiders were my very first love, that I broke up with them about a year before Al Davis passed away, that we have been recently dating again and possibly may get back together. Uh-huh. And while I feel for the fans of Oakland, because I'm a very customer-oriented person, and I think that the Oakland fans are just amazing, I'm actually super psyched about it. Because because here's the thing about the Raiders, is that they have such a international footprint in terms of their fan base, that I think that it's going to give the incentive for more people to actually follow them. I mean, Las Vegas is not that far from Northern California. It's a pretty quick road trip, so it doesn't really preclude people from going. And frankly, I don't know if you've ever been to the Oakland Coliseum before, but as somebody who has, I'd rather go to a game in a new stadium in Las Vegas myself. I completely feel horrible for the fans who live in Oakland, but anybody who doesn't live in Oakland who's a fan, and just anyone who's a fan of football, I think it's actually pretty awesome.
I mean, I'm really excited that Las Vegas is getting a football team, because I like to go there at least once a year, and now I'll go there to see a football game.
Right. Everybody will. I mean, it will potentially be one of the hottest tickets, because what a great place to go watch a football game, right? I mean, it's nice, it's warm, it's the desert, and, there's plenty of other things to do and occupy your time while you're there. So I think the biggest issue they're going to have is keeping their players out of trouble.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be for the team, which I'm sure they've given zero forethought to, because teams don't usually think about these kinds of things, but they need to hire some nannies or something on that staff, because that is just sort of a recipe for an utter disaster. But they're getting an NFL team and they're getting a hockey team, so it's going to be pretty fun thing. I mean, I have this sort of hate relationship with Las Vegas. I hate going there because I feel like when I walk off the plane, there's this air of desperation, that people look desperate, that they act desperate, and it's just, the desperation is sort of palpable in the air. But a lot of people I know, including people I'm related to, really enjoy going there. So the fact that I can go, okay, well, desperation aside, there's a spa and there are a couple of sports teams and there's some good food. Okay, I can make a run at this. And it's closer for me to get to than Oakland.
It's amazing how
really at the end of the day, Fingers, it's just all about me and what I want.
Of course. No, it really cracks me up that you describe it that way, because often when I talk about DC and I describe my mood when I get off the plane, I compare it to Vegas, or I've got an extra spring in my step when I get off the plane when I'm in Vegas going, oh, this is great, I'm in Las Vegas. This is fantastic. And you walk off the plane and you feel the desperation.
I mean, literally, there's 80-year-old women with their tits hanging out, and those bad, little cocktail waitress that, hey, I'm going to get you a drink. And, everybody's, playing on slot machines, and they're wearing things that, it's just, I'm going to win this time, and they're, putting every last dime in there, or, trying to find who knows what. It's just, yeah, it's like literally this tangible, palpable feeling that's just, it just makes me feel icky.
Isn't it great?
It's like, yes, the shower. Yeah.
That's exactly how I describe DC.
Put that all aside.
See, but at least you don't get in Vegas like you do in DC when you're talking to someone. If you're at some sort of cocktail party or whatever, you're talking to someone and you can tell they're really, they look at in your eyes for a couple of seconds, but then they're looking over your shoulder to see who else is walking in the room to plan out their next conversation with someone who maybe be able to help their career out more than you can. That's the thing that I hate about DC.
Here's the issue with that, Fingers. Why are you going to cocktail parties? That's the whole problem with this. Don't go to the cocktail parties. Problem solved.
Free booze.
Why would you possibly want to go to a cocktail party, especially in Washington, D.C.? Out. Get out.
I'm a whore for free liquor. That's why I go to cocktail parties in DC.
See, that's the difference. I don't drink alcohol, as you know. So both Vegas and cocktail parties in DC are completely useless to me.
Well, all right. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that.
Wait, before we go here, I have to know. I gave my beef. I want to know what your guys' beefs are.
Oh, the cowardice of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely pisses me off. And we had been saying this for years on this show. When it comes to Obamacare, are they really going to repeal it or are they going to try to fix it? And you're seeing it right now where they're just trying to fix it, and they can't even do that because there's really no fixing it, like you said.
And the challenge is that if they don't repeal it and they just try and fix it, it makes it too easy for when they're out of office for the Democrats to just revert it back to the way it was before. So there's sort of a practicality to it that just makes sense.
Tracy?
Yeah, it's also tax season. So my beef with that whole taxation of theft business. Having to send them money.
Do tell us more, because I'm sure none of us share this beef. I personally love giving about half of my money away for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, it makes you feel really good, right? It's community service. That's how we should really look at it. We shouldn't look at it as, they're just going to waste this on $500 pencils and $1,000 toilet seats. This is going to go save a child.
Doing studies about shrimp walking on treadmills underwater, and our personal favorite, why lesbians are fat.
Yeah.
It's my personal favorite study. But, I mean, this isn't a joke. This is an actual study that was done with taxpayer money, which anybody could have told you the answer to. It's not that difficult. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I do feel like, this is sort of this time where everybody is sort of snarky and bitchy and like what's making you guys happy these days? Like, what's putting the spring in your step, Tracy O'Connors?
Oh, there's been some decent television shows.
Yeah. What are you watching?
I just finished up Big Little Lies.
I just watched the very first episode. Just got dipped my toes. Is it worth following through on?
I think so. I ended up reading the book in the midst of it because
okay.
I got sucked into watching it while it was happening, which I normally don't do with shows like that, especially because I knew it was limited. It's and there's people on the internet that are morons that are like, maybe it's going to have a second season. I'm like, it's called a mini series, guys. It's based on a book. You can read the book and figure out if it's going to have a second season or not. And I'm guessing it's not. So I read the book in the interim, and it's just stunning to me how many people didn't bother to do that. So they're all like, I don't know what's going to happen. How would we ever know? Oh my goodness. And then the leftist feminist writers, of course, have just twisted the meaning of the show. It's a discussion about privilege and how bad things can still happen to privileged people. And get out of here.
That's exactly what it's about. How did you know? Fantastic journalistic reporting.
Of course.
It's amazing.
Course. Yes.
What about you, Fingers? What's getting you excited these days?
The NFL draft is going to be in a couple of weeks, which is for a Detroit Lions fan. It's our Super Bowl.
Well, the Chicago Bears are right with you there, hon. So, something that back in the day I wouldn't think I would have said. But are you coming down to Chicago for that?
It's in Philadelphia this year.
It is?
Yeah, they've got it.
Why do I not know this? Why do I just assume that? I know we have the NHL draft this year. I just assumed we got the NFL one again. Well, I guess then people are coming to town.
Yeah, well, so don't go down there thinking that the NFL draft is going to be in Chicago because it's in Philadelphia. Now, this is the thing that the NFL is doing now. They're trying to make it like, for teams like the Lions, it's our Super Bowl, so they're going to start rotating the draft around to different cities. They're saying next year.
I missed that entire announcement. That's amazing. All right, so who are you looking at? Who are you hoping to capture?
Well, we have a lot of holes, especially on defense. So I'm hoping to get a defensive end or a linebacker, but knowing the Lions, they'll probably draft a tight end. That's just
the
how
kicker, the poor Raiders, and pick Sebastian Janikowski.
It's amazing how you can get away with being fat when you're a kicker. You know, I mean,
he's more meaty, I would say, than fat. He's just a solid. You know, he's built like a rugby guy.
Yeah, I get. And he's still a pretty good kicker. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, he's like 85 and he's still kicking and still hanging in there. So it's like I don't know. I still don't understand how you pick a kicker in the first round with your first pick. But
that's Al Davis.
A different subject. Which is why we broke up. Now we're potentially getting back together again. So I will tell you, my jam for the day or the week is that the NHL playoffs start next week, and my illustrious Blackhawks do have the top position in their division, and I am expecting very good things out of them and hoping Artem Anisimov will be back for us. He's been out. But, you know, the boys always step it up in the playoffs, and, you know, we're kind of on an every other year Stanley Cup kind of thing. Yeah. So I kind of feel like it's our turn again. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
I lost track of hockey after I left Michigan. So I used to be a Red Wings fan, and then I moved to Indiana 17 years ago. And this may surprise you. They're not into hockey in Indiana like they are in Michigan.
Come to the Blackhawks side of things. It's a good organization to be a fan of. First of all, best sweaters in all of hockey. Great unis. Lots of talent on the team. Super fun. You know, it's still heart of the country, Midwest, original six. Lots to offer. So I invite to extend my hand for you to come over to Team Blackhawks.
Well, when are the local Native American tribes going to start protesting that sweater you're talking about?
They don't. They actually. So if you go to a game in the United Center, one of the actual best parts of the entire game is before the game. They have the world's best national anthem, and they usually honor three people, a couple who are servicemen and one who is a representative from one of the Native American tribes. So they're actually very tight with the Native American community and do a lot to honor them. And everybody's on board. And if you have not witnessed the Chicago Blackhawks national anthem sung by Jim Cornelison, who is a former opera singer, it literally makes the hairs stand up on your arm because everybody cheers during the entire national anthem. And then as it goes on and progresses into the high notes, they just go nuts. And it's just such an incredible feeling of people coming together with this beautiful voice behind it. So if you have not had that opportunity, you know, next year come early in the season when the tickets are at least slightly more reasonable, and it's a pretty incredible American experience to witness, which, by the way, is completely hilarious since most of the people on the ice are from Canada and Russia, but that's a totally separate issue.
No, I did catch him when the Bears made their playoff run a few years ago. Well, it's more than a few years ago now. I mean, we're talking, 2006 probably when they went to the Super Bowl?
I thought it was, it was about 10, 11 years ago. Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, it honestly seems like 17 lifetimes ago, but you're right. It was probably about 11
But they were bringing that guy in to sing the national anthem, and it was really something, especially when they would have the flyover as it was finishing up.
No, it's very special. But if you have it in the enclosed stadium too, it just sort of magnifies the whole experience. So a definite thing to add to the bucket list. Although I have to say, it's kind of funny. My husband and I would talk about like which games we want to go to, and after seeing Game 7 of the World Series last year, it's kind of hard. It's like, well, this is not quite as interesting or meaningful. So should we really pony up the cash to see this one? So that kind of is like the top that will never be topped. So it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Well, I was in a Cubs bar down here in Indianapolis when they clinched to go to the World Series. And it was amazing seeing so many people in their, 30s, 40s, 50s just openly weeping.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. And to be there on that particular moment when they actually won, it was the same thing. There were some older men who were probably in their 60s, 70s, 80s who were crying, and everybody none of us knew each other. We were all hugging each other like we were best friends, and like jumping up and down, and people were passing around bottles of booze and stuff. People came prepared to that park and flying the W. And then I've got on my cell phone, I took a video of everybody was singing "We Are the Champions," and it's just like this amazing moment where you would think that you were in Wrigley Field because there were so many Cubs fans there. It was just truly a magical, one of the best moments ever. So super excited to have that part of history that I was there and got to witness it live.
Well, we have to wrap up the bonus content here, but before we go, any last swear words you want to throw out there before we end this?
I'll do my Bill Burr sign off for you guys. All right, you want me to do that?
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all later, guys. Go fuck yourselves and don't be a cunt.
There you go. Carol Roth. Carol, thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Bye. Thanks. Game over.
Okay, so here's the deal. Tracy.
Fingers.
I thought the bonus content was done.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought we should take 5 minutes from me digging my bomb shelter in the backyard.
After visiting the Drudge front page?
Right now, if you go on Drudge, just the lead is, ah!
Yeah. It's legitimately that this time, I guess.
Yes. We recorded pretty much all of the content for the show this week before the big brouhaha in Syria.
Oh, is that what we're going to call it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sent, 59 Tomahawk missiles screaming through the air at some airbase in Syria. And then all hell broke loose in the United Nations, and if you go to Drudge, you're getting moment-by-moment updates regarding Russian ships steaming into the Mediterranean. It would drive a person to the point of becoming a prepper if you let it.
Yeah.
Look, I am not going to... This may shock a lot of people. This may shock you, Tracy. I am not a Middle Eastern expert.
No.
It's hard to believe. But I know what Aleppo is. No.
Oh, you do?
No. But no, I'm seeing everything from this is World War III on the internet. This is how it's going to start. You read some of the British tabloids, holy crap.
Yeah.
You'll run in your basement with a bunch of canned goods.
But are you safe in the basement?
Probably not.
It depends.
Between that to you've got other people that are claiming that this whole thing is just a complete hoax. Forget the people that are saying that the gassing is a hoax, but that this is a whole angle that Trump and Putin are going around like this is the WWE, and all of a sudden Germany's going to come from behind and smack Putin in the back with a steel chair, and all hell's going to break loose. So I thought that we should at least acknowledge that something happened in Syria, because it would sound like we completely ignored really one of the biggest events so far in the Trump administration, if you would listen to the show this week. So do you have anything you want to talk about the bombing?
Well, I'm in the camp that believes that there was no chemical attack perpetrated by the Assad government. At least I know we touched on this a little bit on the show, because that had happened before we recorded. And he said it just doesn't make any sense why, if you're winning, you're going to do something like this, which is going to inflame the rest of the world.
Well, if you're a complete nut job.
Sure. And it's entirely possible that he is a complete nut job. But at the same time, it doesn't make any strategic sense.
I have people who
whatsoever.
I have people who I respect who are saying that it would be very difficult for anyone other than Syria to deliver this kind of chemical weapon if it happened, if it were delivered in a way. But if and I've also
you make it sound like UPS is dropping it off.
Well, okay,
or an Amazon drone. I mean, delivered.
Well, if it were UPS, it would have been delivered to Iran instead of Syria. Screwed it up. But I see people who I respect say, well, this had to have been Syria. I just am troubled over the fact that this happened on Tuesday and we're bombing on Thursday?
Yes, and we're bombing the airfield where these attacks supposedly originated.
I mean, wow. Do we act that fast on anything?
Well, this is Trumpism, I guess. If we're to believe this, Obama and his red line that went nowhere. He felt we needed to take a stronger stance on this. So you hit military targets instead of civilian targets, I guess, and in a show of strength, and then we won't put up with this anymore. And, we've got Nikki Haley down on the floor showing pictures of the children, which is just so grotesque. I mean, if we want to go to war everywhere where children are being starved to death or, sold into slavery or things like this, we'd be in war all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we here at Enough Already Radio are against children being chemically attacked or starved to death in any way.
Yeah.
But
we don't want to see children being slaughtered.
Right.
Period. But if that's your standard for when we engage, then we should be in a hell of a lot more places. And I can't speak for you, Fingers, but I'm totally against that.
I'm too.
And it was one of the reasons that I liked Trump. I liked the foreign policy aspect. Like, we need to stop meddling in the rest of the world, leave these people to their own devices. And then to throw in something in the statement that was released, which I believe he read too. I just saw the text of it. It was, it's in our interests and we're protecting our security. Those things do not add up. How is that protecting our security?
I'm not a foreign policy expert, but as someone who's just looking out his window from Indianapolis, I don't see how this is really in our interest, other than, of course, we don't want to see children gassed.
No, but
again,
I mean, and if you're,
we would be engaged all over the world.
Correct. And if I think it was a piece that I read in The Guardian that was trying to make excuses. Oh, this is why Assad would use chemical weapons at this juncture in time, even though it seems completely antithetical to his aims. It's because his forces are so depleted and demoralized that this is basically all they have left. It's just easier for them to gas a bunch of people than go and fight. Well, okay, so if that's the truth, then he's not a threat to us whatsoever. You're telling me his depleted military is going to all of a sudden ship out and land over here? They're going to airdrop them in? I mean, how does that make any sense? So you've got Assad and Putin saying this is not what happened. And should we trust? I don't know. I don't trust them, but I also don't trust our own intelligence agencies to tell us what the hell is going on. I think they've wanted war this whole time, and now they see a way to get everybody on that boat.
I have another friend that I respect who tried to point out to her Facebook friends, because she is actually very knowledgeable regarding foreign policy and the media, pointing out that you're going to get propaganda from Russia Today and the other agency, news agency. I'm brain farting. But
well, they've got Sputnik too.
Yeah. My problem with that is I'm to the point where I don't trust anybody. I mean, I get you should point out that, Russia Today is propaganda, but they do come out with some news that you can trust if you can wade through it all. But you could say the same thing about CNN.
Yep.
I don't trust anything out of CNN. New York Times. So I think you just have to question everything at this point.
Well,
except for Enough Already Radio.
Of course. And speaking of CNN, they're saying right now, in a piece that came out maybe 20 minutes before we started recording, that airbase has been hit again.
Today?
Yes.
Saturday?
This is Saturday, yes.
Wow, this is interesting. Because the Russians are pissed. And they've said on more than one occasion that we are this close. And my thumb and my finger are an inch apart. We're this close to having a wider conflict with Russia.
Right. Well, this is the first time in all of this that, as far as I understand, that we have directly attacked Assad's forces. We've been doing targeted strikes on the rebel groups and their strongholds after we quit arming them. Mm-hmm. But now this is the first direct hit on their military, which is definitely an escalation. And I think it's totally unwarranted at this point in time. And I mean, there was some thinking, and I'm not seeing much about it today. When you and I first started talking about this, this was a strike on a military installation. And supposedly, according to our Pentagon reports, the Russians were given a heads up that we were going to do this. So if you're tipping the Russians are definitely tipping the Syrians. So is it kind of like this wink, wink, nod, nod? We have to do something because the world believes that you guys are gassing your own people, but we're just going to hit a military target, and that's the end of it.
And then you've got people out there saying that this is also being done to send a message to North Korea that we aren't dicking around anymore.
Well, sure. Well, you had Xi Jinping or Xi whatever, the Chinese premier, whatever he's called.
We'll just call him Frank.
Yeah, Frank was on hand at Mar-a-Lago with Trump when this went down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that shows we mean business when it comes to this kind of stuff. But so close to giant wars, and it's impossible to trust any reports that are coming out of Syria.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these times these journalists are getting information from people that haven't been vetted, that have an interest in this whole thing. And wouldn't it be silly? I mean, you've got Trump there who's saying that, hey, they lied us into war before, and now he seems to be taking the same intelligence agencies that gave us the weapons of mass destruction line are the ones that he's now getting this information from. And so what happened to that skeptical Trump?
And somewhere in Washington, D.C. right now, John McCain has an almost hard penis. Almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, he's everywhere. He loves this. He's out there loving this. Lindsey Graham, all our favorite war hawks. The left is now applauding some of this. The Never Trump team is back on board. I mean, it's sick to think, all it took was for us to take some military action to get you guys excited. But now the whole Russia thing, that Trump is some Putin puppet, it's kind of blown to smithereens.
Which is why it's a ruse, Tracy.
Of course. Well, Trump. If he tipped Putin, I mean, maybe they can cling to that. Although they're denying this. The Russian military is denying that we gave them any kinds of head up, that they were given a heads up.
No, that's crap. There's no doubt in my mind we gave them a heads up, because if we would have killed some Russians in this, it would have been very, very bad. Very, very bad. So, but like you said, you tip off the Russians are going to tip off the Syrians. I'm surprised anything got destroyed other than the actual base itself and the runways and the whole 9 yards.
Well, that didn't even get destroyed.
The runways weren't destroyed?
Mm-mm.
Then what was the plan?
No, they were saying this CNN piece about the news strikes is video that was uploaded to, I guess this is on Instagram, that showed planes taking off from it again.
So we just blew up a building. Or two.
Yeah, they're saying that in this report, it says a U.S. defense official said Friday the strikes were not intended to damage runways or fully disable the base. Instead, the strikes hit aircraft, fuel storage, weapons dumps, and other equipment, aiming to send a message to the Syrian regime that any use of chemical weapons would not be tolerated. And now keep in mind, too, after the red line was crossed in 2013, and I'll throw up some links in the show notes about where those those weapons came from in the first place, which I don't believe that they were Syrian. But Assad took the fall for that. So they turned over, supposedly, all of their chemical weapons stockpiles. And that was confirmed by the Russians, I believe, and potentially the UN as well.
Didn't John Kerry come marching out saying that?
Yeah. So supposedly we had verified that all their chemical weapons were gone. But then all of a sudden they've got them a couple years later and they're using them. So this just doesn't add up.
Well, we will be doing next week's show from a bomb shelter.
Yes, we're moving down to InfoWars. They've graciously offered to put us up there.
Oh, can't wait to eat canned chip beef for the next 6 months. It's going to be fantastic.
And male vitality. Or super male vitality.
You know I'll be on that when we do a broadcast, and I'll rip my shirt off.
Okay.
Yelling and screaming.
It happens.
God bless Alex Jones. He's a national treasure.
Absolutely. He had my favorite clip of the week.
We should end the show with that.
Absolutely. That was amazing.
All right, that's what we'll do. Final thoughts?
No, I guess we'll just have to see how this plays out. I don't expect that we'll ever know the truth of what happened. Maybe we'll get close to it. But let's just hope this was just a one-off, or if CNN's reporting today is to be believed, just a two-off bombing these guys. And that this doesn't escalate any further.
All right, follow me on Twitter at Fingers Malloy. Follow Tracy on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. We'll be back next week with an all-new Enough Already Radio, and I guess we'll have Alex Jones take us out.
Perfect.
Say something, Alex. These guys are pussies. They talk a tough game. We're gonna get Roger Stone in front of the committee. Gentlemen, ladies, I am ready. I am more than ready.
In fact, let me say this right now. Let me tell, I'm not against gay people. Okay, I love them. They're great folks. But Schiff looks like the archetypal cocksucker with those little deer-in-the-headlight eyes and all his stuff. And there's something about this fairy hopping around, bossing everybody around, trying to intimidate people like me and you. I want to tell Congressman Schiff and all the rest of them, hey, listen, asshole, quit saying Roger and I never used cussing in 22 years, but the gloves are off. Listen, you son of a bitch. What the fuck's your problem? You want to sit here and say that I'm a goddamn fucking Russian? You get in my face with that, I'll beat your goddamn ass, you son of a bitch. You piece of shit. You fucking goddamn fucker. Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Get that through your goddamn fucking head. Stop pushing your shit. You're the people that have fucked this country over and gang raped the shit out of it and lost an election. So stop shooting your mouth off claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch? Fill your hand. I'm sorry, but I'm done. You start calling me a foreign agent, those are fucking fighting words. Excuse me.